In June 20th, 1942, a legend was born, Brian Douglas Wilson. Brian Wilson was born in Inglewood, California, at Centinela Hospital. He was the first child of Audrey Never-Koroff and Murray Gage Wilson. Not long after Brian's birth, the Wilson family moved to a house in Hawthorne, California, where Brian grew up with his two younger brothers, Dennis, born in 1944, and Carl, born in 1946. From infancy, Brian showed a special gift. He could mimic tunes from the radio. By age 7 or 8, he was singing solos in church, dazzling the choir director with his perfect pitch. At 12, after the family bought an upright piano, he practiced relentlessly. Alongside music, he played quarterback for Hawthorne High football team, ran cross-country, and pitched in baseball. Yet music was his true passion. Music ran in Brian's blood. Audrey's piano and organ shaped the household atmosphere, fostering early love for melody. In 1977, obituary notes that Audrey watched proudly as her sons Dennis, Carl, and Brian became founding members of the Beach Boys. Murray, a machinist by day, secretly wrote songs and dreamed of musical success. He ran the family business, Able Machinery, but he also had musical ambitions. Murray wrote or co-wrote dozens of songs over his lifetime. In fact, he even co-founded Safari Records, producer and manager of his sons. He became the Beach Boys' first manager. As a young man, Brian had 6 weeks of accordion lessons arranged by Murray, and by age 15, Brian was already experimenting recording techniques on his own. Despite the creative support, Murray's parenting was strict and at times even abusive. Brian's 2016 memoir describes verbal and physical mistreatment. Still, much of the Beach Boys' musical scaffolding came from his father. Brian's brother, young Dennis Wilson, died. He was drowned in a boating accident in December 1983 at the age of 39. At the time, Dennis was remembered for introducing the surfing theme to the Beach Boys. Carl Wilson died of lung cancer in February 1998 at age 51 in Los Angeles. Brian had half-siblings from his father's later marriage, but they didn't take part in the band. His closest musical collaborators remained his brothers, cousin Mike Love, the co-lead vocalist of the Beach Boys, and childhood friend Al Jardine. Brian Wilson attended Hawthorne High School in Hawthorne, California. He recorded harmonies in his basement using a portable tape recorder received at age 16. In 1960, he attended El Camino College in Los Angeles, majoring in psychology, but left after 18 months. He found professors dismissive of pop music, even though he composed his first original song, Surfer Girl, during that time. In 1961, Brian, his brothers, cousin Mike, and Al Jardine started a band called the Pendletons, inspired by surfer culture. Brian and Mike co-wrote Surfin', inspired by Dennis. The song became a regional radio hit and peaked at number 75 on Billboard. The group changed their name to the Beach Boys. Their debut on New Year's Eve 1961 at a high school dance marked the start of their journey. Brian and lyricist Gary Usher recorded 409 and Surfin' Safari demos. Capitol Records loved them, signed the band in 1962, and the rest is musical history. As the band's main songwriter and producer, Brian shaped the signature Californian sound with chart toppers like Surf City, I Get Around, Help Me, Rhonda, and the groundbreaking Good Vibrations. But behind the scenes, he was struggling with stress and eventually had a breakdown. In 1964, he stopped touring and immersed himself in studio work. He created Pet Sounds, 1966, a recording masterpiece featuring unusual instruments like theremins and bicycle bells. He worked with lyricist Tony Asher and The Wrecking Crew. Pet Sounds wasn't just a hit, it changed pop music's landscape and inspired the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper's. Afterward, he began the ambitious but unfinished Smile project, dubbed A Teenage Symphony to God. Creative tensions and personal struggles derailed it, and it stayed unreleased until much later. By the late 1960s, Brian's mental health faltered. He dealt with insomnia, substance issues, and isolation. Though still part of the band, his creative role faded. In 1977, they released The Beach Boys Love You, largely Brian's own work. But in the 1980s, psychologist Eugene Landy took over Brian's life and career, managing everything from music to personal decisions. Under Landy's control, Brian released his first solo album in 1988, which was successful but controversial. Freed in 1991, Brian reclaimed his life and career. After reclaiming control, Brian revived his career in 1999 by touring as a solo artist, performing Beach Boys classics live. He continued touring through 2022, staging special orchestral performances of Pet Sounds to huge acclaim. Brian's influence earned him a place in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1988 and the Songwriters Hall of Fame in 2000. He was nominated for 9 Grammys, winning 2: Best Rock Instrumental Performance, 2005, and Best Historical Album, 2013. He's celebrated as a visionary who brought pop production to new creative dimensions. Brian's introspective nature contrasted with the band's bubbly image. His personal life was marked by marriages, children, and personal struggle. Diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder and bipolar disorder, he endured hallucinations and deep episodes. Still, music remained his anchor. Wilson's family life included 2 marriages and 7 children. His first wife was singer Marilyn Rolle, whom he married in 1964. Marilyn was a member of the girl group, the Honeys, and is credited on some Beach Boys recordings together. Brian and Marilyn had 2 daughters, Carney, born 1968, and Wendy, born 1969. Carney and Wendy grew up in the spotlight to some degree. In fact, they co-founded the pop group Wilson Phillips with China Phillips in 1989 and achieved their own success in the early 1990s. Carney married musician Robert Bonfiglio and has 2 daughters, while Winnie married Daniel Knudson and has 4 sons. This makes Brian a grandfather to several grandchildren. Brian and Marilyn divorced in 1979. After 15 years of marriage, they remained on relatively friendly terms, and Marilyn continued to be involved in his life for years. Afterward, Brian married Melinda Ledbetter in 1995. Melinda had been a car saleswoman who became Brian's legal client and then romantic partner. She played a crucial role in managing his comeback and stabilizing his life over nearly 3 decades of marriage. Brian and Melinda adopted 5 children together: Dakota Rose, Daria Rose, Delaney Rose, Dylan Wilson, and Dash Wilson. All 5 carry the Wilson surname. 2 of the daughters have Rose as a middle name by many accounts. Melinda and Brian chose to adopt rather than have biological children. Brian was 48 by the time of their marriage, and the couple reportedly did not have any other biological children. Their adopted children were often kept out of the public eye, though family photos and occasional interviews confirmed their close bonds in January 2024. Brian publicly announced the death of Melinda at age 77. Her passing was a significant blow to Brian. He called her more than my wife. She was my savior, and said her death left him and their children just in tears. Melinda's death was one of the final chapters in Brian's life story: sickness and death. Brian Wilson's later years were marked by significant health challenges, both mental and physical, as noted. earlier, he had a long history of mental illness in the mid-1960s. Brian's later years were overshadowed by dementia, diagnosed in early 2024, diabetes, and mobility issues requiring the use of a walker and round-the-clock care. In May 2024, a conservatorship was established to look after his affairs. On June 11, 2025, Brian Wilson passed away at age 82. No specific cause was released, but his years of physical and mental health challenges were a factor. He left behind his biological daughters, adopted children, and a legacy that reverberates through generations. At his death, Brian's net worth was estimated at around $100 million, fueled by royalties from iconic songs. He owned a series of homes. In the 1960s, he purchased a hillside mansion on Laurel Way in Beverly Hills, 1448 Laurel Way. This became the family home for Brian, Marilyn, and their daughters after their marriage. It was in that Beverly Hills that Brian wrote and recorded much of Pet Sounds. In later years, Brian sold the house. During the 1990s and 2000s, he acquired another Beverly Hills estate, according to property records in 1999. Wilson paid about $3.5 million for a mansion in Beverly Hills. He listed that house for nearly $9 million in 2007, though he eventually sold it later and was taken off the market. In 2012, Brian and Melinda purchased a second home at Lake Arrowhead, California, paying about $2.1 million. This was a large mountain property. Where they spent occasional weekends and holidays. They listed the Lake Arrowhead home for sale in 2016 for around $3.3 million and ultimately sold it in late 2019 for about $2.85 million, according to legal filings and interviews. Though we couldn't confirm his car collection, it's clear Brian had an eye for style off stage as well. Brian Wilson's life was a symphony of creativity, genius, and struggle. Behind the harmonies, there was a man who poured his soul into every note. His music changed the world, and so did he. What's your all-time favorite Beach Boys song and favorite memories about Brian Wilson? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. If you loved this story, hit that like button and subscribe for more compelling life journeys. Until next time, keep the music playing.